Finally, we are back, and not quite as late as we have been for the last few streams, so that's good. That's nice. Back on the horse. 2 hours of streaming. 2 hours of streaming. 2 hours of conversation with your favorite radical trans lefty, Lady Phoebus. Is that the name now? Is that what we're going with? Howdy, Margot. I hope you're enjoying your new apartment. I hope that has been very good. I hope it has had a salutary effect on your health. Hello and welcome. Does the word ceasefire mean a goddamn thing anymore? No, but we'll get to that. Did you hear about Tennessee? I did. We'll get to that as well. I'm tired. I bet, Taylor. I'm tired too. I'm tired, boss. Dog tired. But yeah, we're going to get to the news about Tennessee. We're going to talk a little bit about the failing and completely schizophrenic ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran. We're going to be talking about the possibility that there's a peace deal being worked out, one which, if the sources are to be believed, actually favors Iran quite a bit. We'll talk about all of that once we get 50 or more people in here, so hit that like button, share the stream, you know what to do. Make sure that the word gets out there. My childhood friend's house was destroyed in the tornadoes in Mississippi recently. Oh no, that's horrible. They were trapped inside after trees fell on it and it collapsed. Are they okay? I hope they're okay. That's horrible. That's like nightmare scenario type of shit. What happened in Tennessee? So Tennessee has been gerrymandered to fuck, and it did not take them long either. Last week, the Supreme Court issued a ruling that I talked about it a little bit. Lots of other lefties were talking about it a little bit, and the consensus was this is a massive blow to the Voting Rights Act, because basically one of the things that the Voting Rights Act did was make it so that these districts had to be redrawn so that they actually like represented basically like one of the ways in which black people had been disenfranchised despite the 14th Amendment and everything else was with basically congressional maps that look a lot like the map that Tennessee just passed. Congressional maps that split black communities or made them into one part of a much larger district that encapsulated a bunch of other rural voters who were not likely to vote the same way as the people living in the city. And basically, when the Voting Rights Act was established, one of the things that had to happen to fulfill its obligations was the rewriting of some of these district boundaries to make it so that there were, in fact, some black majority districts, because there were definitely plenty of black majority communities. There was definitely plenty of democratic potential there, but there was no, and when I say democratic potential, I don't mean the Democratic Party. I mean like the ability to participate in democracy. But with the Supreme Court making the decision that they did last week, that opened the door to these right-wing southern states to be able to redraw their maps, many of which had to kind of maintain some of the same boundaries for a long time, or at least some of the same tendencies for a long time. Now they're able to redraw them to favor the old, outdated, like racist visions of the state planners from days far away and gone by. So the TLDR did not. Sorry, the TLDR on that one is basically Tennessee has gerrymandered the fuck out of itself in order to utterly prevent black people and people of color more broadly from having any kind of concerted political power in the state, despite the fact that they make up a pretty good chunk of the population. It's also being done more broadly to prevent anybody progressive from being able to get much of a voice in the state by diluting the votes of anybody who lives in a progressive area across a district that also includes a ton of fucking ruraloid conservative votes from people who are not educated and unwilling to participate in democracy as it's presented. I guess we're gonna have to press the monkey button, huh? Alrighty, that should block out the spam bots. Now maybe we can have a conversation about the gerrymandering in Tennessee. Men spit like that. It takes a particularly it takes a particularly like gender obsessed person to like take every single human bodily function and append it to one gender or the other. It really is like peak cishet behavior to say that farting is a masculine thing or spitting is a masculine thing or crossing your legs is a feminine thing. That is an insane level of obsessiveness. That is like an almost spiritual desire to append genders and personalities to everything. I heard Memphis might secede from Tennessee. Yeah, and the South's gonna secede from the Union. Yeah, I've heard it all, bro. I'll believe it when I see it. There will be no city states in America. Trust me. Um, Number one, Tennessee does not want to lose Memphis as much as Tennessee doesn't want to. And this is the fucked up thing about all of these southern states. This is true of all of them. Tennessee might not like the fact that Nashville and Memphis doesn't tend to vote their way, but boy howdy are they fucking glad that those cities are there. Similarly, Louisiana might not like the way New Orleans votes, but goddamn, you couldn't convince Louisiana to fucking cut New Orleans off. You know why? Because at the end of the day, they are fundamentally reliant on the tax dollars that these big cities pull in. And not only that, but they're also reliant on the PR that these big cities provide. You're a pagan? Something of the sort. Louisiana should just give the northern part of the state to Arkansas. I mean, you joke, but actually, if you took just the coastal cities of the South that ride on the northern rim of the Gulf of Mexico, so if you took basically everything from Galveston to Pensacola, what you would end up with, ironically, is pretty much a Southern California. Like, if you just allowed these coastal cities to separate and become their own united state, like in a 51st state basically made out of component parts of these others, it would essentially become like a Southern California. I mean, it wouldn't have nearly as much tourist draw, I guess, but in terms of like political output, in terms of investment, God damn it. I took a Tums, and that should be making me feel better, but I think it's actually just making me gassy. Legalize the good kush. I agree. Thank you for the $1.99, by the way, but I totally agree. The fact that cannabis is not legalized at a federal level at this late date in time is a collective national embarrassment. America was leading the world on that, and we still are. I mean, the rest of the world is taking a while to catch up with us on that, or to us on that. You know what I mean. I still think it's something we should be prioritizing, not maybe above certain other things. Obviously, universal health care would be nice. Infrastructure renewal would be nice. Universal higher education and apprenticeships. These things are good also, and probably more important. But it is kind of strange to me that we are still. It's very strange to me that the federal government of the United States hasn't taken a more forward position on getting cannabis legalized at the federal level, because it seems to me like all of the traditional arguments against it are gone. Almost never hear them anymore. There's a few advocacy groups out there that are really just thinly veiled arms of the alcohol lobby in a lot of cases. That are trying to resist the legalization of cannabis, but they've got no real political power. They've got no real sway. And Republicans are notably reticent to talk about cannabis policy either on the campaign trail or in office at this point, regardless of whether they're in a southern state or a legal state or whatever, because they know on some level that most of their constituents smoke. Good, bad, right, or wrong, they know that most of their constituents either smoke or know someone who smokes and want to see it legalized. I shouldn't say they all, obviously, only like a third of Americans smoke, so it's not like, but you get the point I'm trying to make, right? There is enough consensus among the average everyday American voter that cannabis is something that should be legalized on the state and federal level, that it's become impossible for politicians on either side to take a stand against it. And not only that, but we lose out on so much fucking federal tax revenue from the fact that it's not legalized at the federal level. And it also is kind of a constraint on the marketplace, too. Imagine how much cheaper pot could get if you were allowed to import it and export it, states like Missouri that are really good at growing lots of really high quality weed could be making quite a bit off the export of that cannabis to states around them that are not as qualified, or not as equipped, I should say. Qualified maybe is the wrong word to use. Over half of adult Americans have at least tried weed. Yeah, and something like a third are regular users, somewhat regular users. Have you been in the South before? What was your experience? I live in Mississippi, so my experience of the South is, I guess, a bit different depending on what area of the South you're in. In general, though, the Deep South feels like a third world country, and the periphery of the South feels like a weird kind of traditionalist step back, but not necessarily as third worldy as like the Deep South does. The deeper in you get to the South, the closer you get to the sites of historical lynchings and things like that, the more backwards and out of date things start to be, and that is just ubiquitous in my experience across the entirety of the Deep South. Whether you're talking about the core of Mississippi or Alabama or Arkansas, northern Louisiana, fucking Georgia. I feel like I'm missing one. People would say Tennessee, but there's not a single part of there's not a single part of Tennessee that I would qualify as Deep South. Maybe, maybe I'm just not looking at it the right way, but maybe some like border regions of Tennessee that border like the southern kind of portion of Tennessee, maybe it's worthy of being called the Deep South. But I mean, the southeastern edge of Missouri abuts Tennessee, and I certainly would not call that transitory region there anything but Midwestern. So, love how the haters are just driving up your engagement. You found the whole secret of this channel. You have detected my modus operandi. I gotta say, you're incredibly well spoken. I don't know about that. I actually feel like I'm not doing that great tonight. I feel like I've certainly been much better spoken on other nights. Sometimes I just have a really good night where I feel like I'm really on top of it. I'm able to hit people with the hard points and I'm able to elucidate everything perfectly. And then other nights I feel like I'm doing okay, but I could do better. And this is one of those nights where I feel like I'm doing okay, but I could do better. Why do people smoke then cough your heads off? Maybe the dumbest thing I've seen in life. I don't get it. Maybe you would understand it if you smoked one of the things that they're smoking and felt what they feel. Then you'd get it. It's like, oh, okay, the cough is a small price to pay for the fucking feeling of being super high. It's like, yeah, you have to cough a little bit after you take a big old hit of weed, but on the other hand, you're high. So, like, what does it matter? Jesus said there are one, two genders. Jesus didn't say a goddamn thing. You have no idea what Jesus may or may not have said if he existed at all. Hmm. You need David Goggins? I don't even know who the fuck that is. Cood, lung cancer, none of those things are. Okay, you're trying to say COPD, lung cancer, none of these things are worth getting high, none. So, cannabis has not been shown to cause lung cancer at anywhere near the rate that tobacco consumption is shown. Nicotine is a far more potent carcinogen than THC ever could hope to be. And there is no compelling evidence out right now, as far as I know, that THC is a carcinogen at all. Now, all smoke is carcinogenic, um, but like you would probably, I don't know. Let me look into it actually. Let me see. I've got a second phone here. Happy Mother's Day. Aw, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for the big gift and for the big heart. That's nice of you. But let's see. Um, does let's see. Let's use. I like to use Gemini because Gemini will provide me a list of sources, and it's also integrated with all my other Google shit. But anyway, let's just ask Gemini. Okay, so are there any that correlate usage via oral inhalation to higher rates of lung cancer? Okay, so the question I asked it is: are there any studies to correlate marijuana usage via oral inhalation to higher rates of lung cancer? Research regarding the link between inhaled marijuana and lung cancer remains complex and often contradictory. While cannabis smoke contains many of the same carcinogens as tobacco, epidemiological studies have not yet reached a definitive consensus. Current scientific literature highlights several critical points regarding the relationship between marijuana inhalation and lung cancer risk. Increased risk in heavy users. Some case control studies have identified a significant correlation among users. For instance, one study found an 8% increase in lung cancer risk for every joint year, smoking one joint per day for a year of use. 8%. See, that's a really strange calculation too, because I guess that's a good. I feel like that is a pretty good metric to use for like heavy usage, heavy user consumption, however you want to call that. But I wonder if the effects are the same. If I guess I would have to look into the study because what I would wonder is, are the effects the same if you are smoking a lot for 3 weeks and then you take 2 weeks off and then you pick it back up, or if it really needs to be consistent usage over a long period of time. Anyway, presence of carcinogens. Cannabis smoke is qualitatively similar to tobacco smoke, but can contain up to twice the concentration of carcinogenic polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. Aldington et al. 2008. Inhalation techniques. Marijuana smokers typically inhale more deeply and hold their breath longer than tobacco smokers, which can facilitate the deposition of carcinogenic products deeper into the lower respiratory tract. Same study. Conflicting meta-analysis. A large-scale pooled analysis involving the International Lung Cancer Consortium found little evidence of increased risk for habitual or long-term smokers, though it could not exclude risks for very heavy consumption. Conversely, a 2018 meta-analysis suggested a marginally significant association between cannabis smoking and lung cancer risk, with an odds ratio of 1.76. Factors complicating research. Concurrent tobacco use. Many pot users also smoke tobacco, making it difficult for researchers to isolate the effects of cannabis alone. Zhang et al. 2014. Potential anti-tumor properties. Some studies suggest that cannabinoids like delta-9 tetrahydrocannabidiol, THC, may have anti-carcinogenic effects that could theoretically mitigate some of the damage caused by the smoke, which is actually from the same exact study that was talking about the increased risk in heavy users in the presence of carcinogens. And underreporting. Due to the historical legal status of marijuana, users in older studies may have underreported their usage, leading to data gaps. So yeah, we've got a number of references here. We can go through those references if you guys want to. But basically what I'm reading off of that is that based on the information available, it seems like there's a marginally higher risk of lung cancer if you smoke weed versus if you don't. But it's kind of hard for us to figure that out, and a lot of the meta-analysis seem to suggest the opposite. A lot of the meta-analysis seem to suggest that you are actually somewhat less likely to get lung cancer if you're smoking weed, which I think is incredibly interesting given the dangers of tobacco and how often they're compared, when in reality, based on what we were just reading, it seems like if there is any comparison, it's in the fact that a lot of people smoke them, and with cannabis, you really can get the same exact experience with a number of different, perfectly just as good and acceptable alternatives. Like you can vape weed, you can eat edibles, you can, there's tablets you can get at this point, so you don't necessarily have to be inhaling the smoke, even, which is also somewhat true of nicotine, but nicotine is still a carcinogen on its own, which, according to what we were just reading, is not true of THC. I bet your parents are pissed at you, lol. Why would they be? I'm self-employed, making all of my money by sitting around talking shit on YouTube for 2 hours a day and doing some back-end shit for like 3 to 4 hours for the rest of the day, filling the rest of my day up with household chores, making sure everything's nice and clean, gardening, taking care of animals, taking care of my family. I feel like I live actually a pretty noble life at this point. Unemployed drunkie? Me? I'm not a drunk. I smoke weed. Get my drug of choice correct if you're gonna cast aspersions. What do you garden? Peppers? All kinds of shit. I was actually showing off a little bit of it today on the members only stream. So join the membership and go watch that. It didn't take long to figure out that cigarettes cause cancer. The government hid that fact to help big tobacco. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons, by the way, why I think that we can accept this, all the science that's been done about cannabis and its low potential for carcinogenic action. That's why I think we can accept it a little bit more, because the government has every incentive in this example, in this instance, to push the research that would say that pot is carcinogenic, right? Like they have every incentive. If your position is that they want to keep things like prohibited so that they can continue to use that as fuel for the war on drugs, as fuel for the private prison industry, etc. Jesus loves transgender women. Well, thank you, Bobby Scar. Thank you. I think I like to think he does. I like to think you're right. Thank you for the $10. I appreciate that a ton. If you're enjoying the stream and you would like to support like Bobby did, consider sending a super chat in just that fashion, or sending a super cash app. You can do that right down below. Either way is appreciated massively. You forget about the amount of research and long-term clinical testing. Nicotine is far more data than THC. It will be difficult with the current data sets to make the comparison apples to apples. Well, that's the thing. That person earlier that we were just talking about, I don't know if it was you or somebody else. Somebody else just brought up the fact that they figured out super quickly that nicotine was bad for you. It didn't take that many studies. It took like 4 or 5 studies for them to figure out that it was really bad for people. And the tobacco companies and the government colluded to hide that information from people for a long time. It wasn't until like the 60s or the 70s, I think, that the studies started finally being released and people started finally getting access to some of this information, and people really started to find out how bad it was for you. And eventually that led into a campaign to get people to stop smoking, and some of that was adopted as policy, etc., etc. But it started with a concerted effort by um, big tobacco and their lobbyists and politicians to keep the public misinformed about the dangers of tobacco. And, that's despite the fact that we knew very quickly. And in this instance, we are facing a situation where it would actually be in the government's best interest, as things are right now, and in the interest of the alcohol lobby and everything else, to suppress the studies that we were just reading about how pot use is pretty innocuous as far as a cancer risk goes. It would be in their best interest to push forward studies that would suggest that pot is in fact a carcinogen, because it would give them and their politicians and their lobbyists further ammunition to continue to try and push anti-weed legislation. So it's actually one of those. It's like a. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. Um, I can't think of it, but basically the interests go against the. Fuck, I hate it when I do this. I hate it when my brain gets caught up on a phrase and I can't think of what it is, and I just can't move forward because I can't remember what that core phrase is. Um, I'll take a hit of the bowl, maybe I'll remember. No, I don't remember. But anyway. Hmm. I look dumb as fuck? Well, you sound dumb as fuck typing like that. Grown adults know how to properly capitalize their sentences and format things so that the things they say actually have a little bit more impact. Your family is disappointed in you? That sounds like projection, Jacob King. It sounds to me like you walk around your house every day in abject shame at the fact that your life has amounted to nothing and that you'll probably never do anything meaningfully in it. And I doubt very much that you participate in the everyday goings on of the maintenance of your household. Meanwhile, I spend all of my days doing those very things and participating as an active member of my society and my household. I think that you might be detecting in me a condition which afflicts your life. They're definitely disappointed. Well, I can tell you this much. My parents, at the very least, know that I can spell. Your parents can make no such assumption. Thank you, Hard Cockroach, for the $4.99. What a name, by the way. What a name. What an utterly disturbed name. Prove them wrong then? What am I supposed to do? Like call up my parents? What time is it? It's fucking 12 in the morning. No. They're asleep. Sorry I'm late. Oh, don't be sorry. Dan, you're fine. Hi, Corey. Your parents don't even know what the fuck you are? What do you mean? Do you think I don't have, like, regular contact with my parents? I do. My mom's even been on my stream a couple times. She's had conversations with me on this very channel. You sound and look ridiculous? Well, at least people know what I sound and look like. Meanwhile, you've got some fucking cartoon character as your profile picture, trying to be some internet badass while doing nothing but casting aspersions on random internet strangers' live streams. At least I've got the confidence of my convictions. Hi, bro. You're awesome. Clock they shit. Go outside if you're comfortable. It's like 48 degrees, and I really don't feel like building a fire, so nah. Think I'm gonna stay right inside. Are you Catholic? No, I'm an atheist. Your mother dressed you funny? Okay. Yeah, sure. My mom started me off at 4 years old in patch vests. Gotcha. Interesting title. Do you even understand gerrymandering? Yeah, it's when you make a fucking whole bunch of districts that look like weird snakes in order to disenfranchise people that represent communities of huge populations with concerted political effort. Such as the massive snake-long districts now featured in western Tennessee on the recently passed congressional maps approved by the Governor Lee earlier today. You do know the Dems have been doing that for decades? It's a Republican and a Democratic practice, number one. And number two, I don't think you understand how the game works if you think that there is any possibility with our broken two-party system to have anything like a pro-human outcome without a little bit of fucking counter gerrymandering. Yeah, in order to counter the literal fucking century or two of purposeful disenfranchisement of poor and colored communities, there have been some real necessary efforts to do some counter some counter gerrymandering, basically, some counter redistricting to make districts that are actually fucking reflective of the democratic will of that state. For some reason, rural people think that they should have more of a voice than people who live in the cities, and they are willing to pass completely bogus, bullshit, partisan, gerrymandered to fuck maps to reflect that belief. And you want to get mad at the Democrats for that, but the Democrats introduced a measure last year or the year before to ban partisan gerrymandering, to make it so that all congressional districts would have to be drawn up uh, by nonpartisan, disinterested third party, by some kind of nonpartisan, disinterested third party, and the Republicans roundly rejected that proposal. So you guys had the opportunity. The Republicans can complain all they want about gerrymandering now, and they can act like they're perfectly morally justified in doing it because the Dems have done it. But the reality of it is that the Dems wanted to end the practice. The Dems, by the way, I'm not some big fucking simp for the national level Democratic Party, but to the extent that Democratic politicians and administrations have had to gerrymander in their states and in their communities and shit, it has been in direct response to Republican attempts to make the vote of rural people count for more than the vote of people in the cities. I like how he doesn't block you. You like how she doesn't block you. You also should know that Dems have had several proven illegal Republican zero. What? Republicans have had plenty of district maps proven illegal. What the fuck are you talking about? Where is this bogus fucking statistic pulling? What? Huh? Hold on. All right. Guess we got to pull out the second phone again. Give me a list of Republican proposed or passed Republican um Republican led redistricting um maps. Hmm. How do I put this? Let me see. Led district maps that were rejected as unconstitutional by the courts or other relevant authority. Unconditional? That's not what I was fucking trying to write. Unconstitutional. There we go. Fuck, that took a lot to write, and I just hope that I hope that Jim and I understand. I hope that Jim and I understands what I was trying to do. Okay, so redistricting maps are frequently litigated, often centering on whether they violate the Voting Rights Act or the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Below are several notable Republican-led maps that were rejected by courts or relevant authorities between 2021 and 2026. So Alabama has been at the center of the redistricting debate for several years due to its resistance to creating a second majority black district. The 2021 map, rejected by a three-judge federal panel for likely violating Section 2 of the VRA, the U.S. Supreme Court later affirmed this in the landmark Allen v. Milligan ruling, stating the state needed to create a second district where black voters had a fair opportunity to elect a representative. The 2023 remedial map. After the Supreme Court's order, Alabama Republicans submitted a new map that still only included one majority black district. Federal judges reject this again, calling it a failure to comply with their previous order. A court-appointed special master eventually drew the map currently in use. I'm not going to bother going through every single example that Jim and I gave me, and the reason for that is because it would be useless to do so when your entire claim has been disproven merely by the ability to cite one example. I'm not going to allow you to merely redefine the goalposts and say, okay, well, now I want you to provide me 10 examples. No, I'm not going to engage in this with you. You need to admit right now that Republicans love using this strategy, and they love using it to disenfranchise people. And I would also appreciate it if you'd admit that the political opponents of Republicans are going to be forced to use that same tactic in opposition to them as long as the Republicans are resistant to forbidding the tactic at all. You're a male that wishes to be a female, correct? Or feels more comfortable being more feminine. Nothing wrong with that, but don't lie about it. I was assigned male at birth. I've been living as a woman for the last 6 years. If you don't recognize transgender people, that's not my problem, frankly. There are lots of articles written by people who are way smarter than me, way more educated than I am, and way more qualified than I am, that will tell you everything there is to know about trans people and the condition that we live in, and the history of like the struggle for trans rights, and the history of like the study of trans people as like as a field, I guess you could say. Because you're wrong. Dems have had 42 proven illegal. Well, I tell you what, your claim was that Republicans have had 0 proven illegal, and I just proved that that was wrong. So, no, I did not make the claim that Democrats have never had any fucking maps proven illegal. I don't know where the fuck you got that from. My whole claim, my whole point here is that the political opponents of Republicans will be forced to use gerrymandering tactics as long as Republicans remain unwilling to ban the tactic outright. Democrats have tried a number of times to ban gerrymandering, which would, by the way, prevent them from doing it as well, but Republicans have resisted this because they would rather gamble on the idea that they can forever disenfranchise people living in the cities than they would ever give up their ability to try and do so. You are lonely, and so you latched onto the community to belong, but it's okay, you are accepted as you are. That's right, I am accepted as I am, which is as a trans woman. I am never, ever, 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 ever going to detransition. You can give the fuck up. I do not care how you think about me. I do not care how you feel about me. I do not care how you feel about gender transition as a concept. I don't give a fuck how you think about trans people. I don't give a fuck about what you think about anything, frankly, much less my gender transition. So let's get that, like, let's just fucking clarify that right from the get go. You haven't risen to the fucking point of importance for me to give a shit yet about a goddamn thing, much less the deep and complex and nuanced topic of gender transition. You're angry, so you know. You mad, so you is wrong. Stupidest fucking argument ever coined by humanity. And it's literally something that's only emerged in the last like 5 or 6 years as a direct result of the preponderance of debate bro content who make so much of their so much of their dough, so much of their reputation is built on them being totally calm, cool, and collected, even in the face of totally outrageous bullshit. I'm just gonna sit here and like totally absorb that and like talk with a Nazi without ever getting like super loud and angry at them. And I don't do that shit. I'm sorry, but that shit's foreign to me, motherfucker. If you don't like angry people, get out of here. If you don't like people who present their positions with passion, get the fuck out of here. I ain't got you chained to the basement. I ain't got you chained to my radiator. And if you find something amiss about my passion, my anger, my fucking willingness to speak up for what I believe in, then maybe find yourself a different streamer. The whole YouTube Shorts algorithm is built for you to never run out of people. Oh, what's up, Wasteland Games? Do you still want to drink your fish? Do you still want to fuck your truck? Anyways, what you smoking, sativa or indica? I don't actually know. I'm not 100% sure, actually. I would guess a hybrid. I will be right back. I gotta use the bathroom. Oh. I could sing in Mandarin, and you'd know I'm pandering. Legalize gerrymandering. Fuck your ears, I'm pandering. I write songs for the people who do jobs in towns that I'd never move to. Legalize gerrymandering. This thing is back. I find it incredibly hilarious that you're keeping up this campaign of shit talk when I've seen you in like the last like 10 streams I've done, something like that. Let's just see. Let's just see how far back it goes. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 fucking streams. Joined a month ago, so you're probably an alt of an alt of an alt of an alt of an alt. How obsessed with my shit are you, bro? King Bugs, thank you for the 10 gifted memberships. And Posted Hood, what's with your ass? Motherfucker, can you decide whether you want to be a friendly, good person or a fucking piece of shit already so I can decide how I want to interact with you? Get some air? You don't understand. There is a mission undertaken in the first hour of this stream, okay? To get as high as humanly possible and to talk shit for as long as we can. And that, like, I'm just now getting to the end of my first bowl. And the only reason I coughed so hard that time anyway was because I hit a little resin at the end there. Had I scraped it out and packed a new bowl, it wouldn't have been a problem. Missed a couple beard hairs when you shaved, did I? Where at? Where at? Point them out. You can literally, like, see the light glinting off my skin because it's so smooth. ruthless self-confidence. What gender are you? No offense. I am a trans woman. I don't voice train, which I think throws a lot of people off. I think if I had like um, a voice that was like a lot higher register or more outwardly feminine, I think that people would probably not get as confused as often. But on the other hand, my voice doesn't really give me that much dysphoria. Can we all smoke dope with the Pope, please? If we could only be so lucky. Oh. It's just a maintenance away vehicle. I got spooked for a second. Oh. I don't know if I said it, King Bugs, but thank you for the 10 gifted memberships. I appreciate that. Most times the mind breaks to cope with a traumatic experience, usually from childhood. Under what auspices do you think that my brain has broken? In the end, it doesn't matter because we are all just specks of dust. We're just two fishbowl. We're just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl, right? As Pink Floyd once put it. No, I mean like the nihilistic truth of the universe does make it a little bit hard to care too overly much about how people feel about any one thing. It really does kind of put into perspective how important your happiness and your satisfaction with life is versus satisfying these like satisfying the rigid requirements of societal abstractions or social arrangements or whatever. Running over the same old ground. Yep. You need to get a bong emoji, Phoebe? You're right! You're right, actually. That's not a bad idea. I wonder if that would get me banned. Is that allowed? Probably. Phoebe, tell them you don't smoke dope, you drink Jack and Coke, okay? No, I don't drink Jack and Coke. I don't want anybody getting that impression. I mean, I will. Like, if I'm at a DFF meetup, I'll have whatever the fucking custom drinks are, you know? They've always got at least one or two, and last year they had three, which was awesome. I gotta say, pretty fucking cool. Aw, yay! Thank you, Devil Doll. I appreciate that. A gifted membership. Yay! I'm not old enough to drink. Man, Wasteland Games, you better not be like 15, bro. You better not. Satisfaction is supposed to be internally based instead of external. Um, Supposed to is a strong word, but yes, I think that um, sustainable happiness and satisfaction is achieved through internal gnosis. Psychedelics are best. I don't. We got into this topic yesterday, and I feel like it might be part of the reason why YouTube eventually stopped recommending the stream to people. So I don't want to get too deep into it this time, but yeah, suffice to say, I do agree with you. See what I mean? I say psychedelics, and instantly it goes down to 36. Oh, thank you for the sparkles. Look at that. Look at all those sparkles. Sparkles! Sparklies! You identify as John Wick? Has anybody shot your beagle yet? You need somebody to fill the role? Are there tornadoes where you live? There weren't. I mean, like in Mississippi broadly, there were some tornadoes through this week, but I was not in an area that got hit hard with tornadoes, at least fucking far as I know. That being said, I don't keep that up to date with the local news, so I know tornadoes hit Mississippi earlier this week. I don't know if they hit near me in particular. As near as I can tell, they didn't, but I haven't gotten that far out either since the tornado struck. But yes, broadly, tornadoes do come through here. When I was living on this property when I was a kid, a huge tornado came through one year that actually, like, it came through in a series of really bad storms that were rolling through. And it threw one of our brooders, which are it's a type of enclosure you use to raise young chickens until they can get old enough to live without a heat lamp and stuff like that. And it threw one of our brooders like clear across the property, um, like onto the railroad nearby. A couple of railroad workers ended up helping my dad apparently. Um, you know, at some point overnight while me and my mom and my sister and everything were huddled in the hallway. My dad, of course, ever the insane motherfucker that he was apparently like standing around outside waiting to see exactly what would happen and how bad things would get. And I guess he came back inside when things got really bad, when it started actually like fucking swing through across the property and shit. But when he came outside again after it passed, that was like the first thing he noticed. And apparently, a couple railroad workers helped him get that fucker off the railroad and back onto the property. Um, One of the things me and him had to do later on was get it to where we actually wanted it to be, which, like, we ended up just putting it between two trees and chaining it down, and that is where it remains to this day. It is still to this day chained to those trees. And the trees are still healthy. So, but yeah, this is probably 20 years ago. No, more than 20 years ago. Hell, 15 years ago, maybe. You been to Mississippi your whole life? No. No, my parents got divorced when I was like 14. And between then and like a couple of years ago, when I was like 25, I lived mostly in the Midwest, but I spent several years of my life living all over the country. Favorite place you lived? Massachusetts or New Mexico. Massachusetts because it was living in Massachusetts that I first got to experience what it's actually like to live in a walkable city. I lived in North Adams, Mass for like 6 months, and it was the only place to this day that I've ever lived where it was actually like feasible to walk to the grocery store. We actually had a purloined grocery cart from a store that had shut down a number of years ago that we used to do our grocery shopping sometimes. I mean, sometimes we would just take my van because I had the same minivan that I'd lived in at the time. um, when I was living in Mass, I was living in an apartment, but I still had that van, and it's what I used to commute back and forth from work. And sometimes we'd use that for our grocery trips, but there were at least 3 times where, just because it was like a beautiful day and so feasible, and the walk was genuinely enjoyable, we chose to just take that shopping cart down there, do our grocery shopping, and then fucking get home. And it was awesome being able to do that, and it really changed my opinion about the qualities of urban life and what it can offer. That weed is weak. Weed is weak. Definitely smoking sativa. How do you know it's weak? On what basis are you making this aspersion? Walkable is the fucking best. Urban life rules. Well, here's the thing. Here's what I've learned. If you want a lesson from your girl Phoebe about the various different ways that we human beings structure our lives, there are benefits and demerits to living in the country and living in the city. And here's a hot take: the only way of living that actually kind of uniformly sucks, no matter how you cut it, and will inevitably, in pretty much anybody, eventually induce a kind of weird sense of atomization and isolation, is like undeveloped, overly sprawling small towns and suburbs. And honestly, the main problem is the same for both of them. Like, I'll give you an example. There's this town called Park Hills, Missouri, and it's the consolidation of like 4 different towns. But that town is pretty walkable if you're reasonably close to the core of the old town that used to be called Flat River, or if you're reasonably close to the strip malls on kind of like the more, I guess it would be like eastern side of town, southern side of town. I don't fucking know, but there's like a few places where you can live, and if you want to walk or need to walk, you're fine. But there's tons and tons of neighborhoods on the periphery of these areas that were at one time more or less walkable because there used to be stores in them or near them or closer to them or whatever, that are all gone and shut down and shuttered now, that are now like they're walkable in that there's like some sidewalks still, and there's maybe like a park or two, and there's not a lot of traffic and shit, but they're not walkable in the sense that there's anything to walk to, which is an important aspect of walkability that a lot of people don't consider. And then I didn't really fucking consider until I lived in Massachusetts. Like during the limited time that I lived in that town, Park Hills, I thought myself kind of lucky because I'd only experienced living in the country at that point to be able to walk to a grocery store at all. Even if it would take me an hour and a half, I still thought it was cool that I could do that. And then, sure, like the whole fucking process might take me 4 hours to complete, but at least it was something I could do. Unlike living in the country, where it would have taken me all of an afternoon to walk anywhere where I could get anything. But one thing I didn't really appreciate is how important it is to have something that is actually worth walking to nearby. And that can take a lot of things. Like, they can be businesses in and of themselves, or it can just be access to public transit. Like, for example, if that particular area in Missouri was ever to um, try and improve itself and really make a big difference in the ability for people without cars to get around and to do shit, the biggest thing they could do is introduce a bus line with stops on all the peripheral neighborhoods and in all the business districts. I agree. Small spread out towns make it very hard to be financially successful. 100%. 100%. And that's true whether you're a just a regular tax-paying consumer living in that town, or if you're like a small business owner doing something in that town. And honestly, a lot of times, even bigger companies can have a harder time getting established or finding a reason to try and establish anything there, even if there is desire for those companies to build or whatever. Um, and I'm not saying that corporate investment is a great thing for small towns, but under our current economic model, it's one of those things you kind of have to consider when you're talking about the problems facing America's cities and towns. Having these big, spread out small towns, these overgrown small towns that don't produce a whole lot of loyalty and a whole lot of sense of community and neighborliness and unitedness and shit within the people that live there, it can be kind of hard to justify trying to set something up there when the reality of it is, like, tons of people that live there are living in homes that they're renting, and they're probably not going to live there their whole lives. They don't have any particular loyalty to that area. Many of them already have um, pretty decent jobs. Doesn't mean you can't necessarily invest in one of those areas, but yeah. The car companies lobbied against public transportation infrastructure in favor of making us all buy their cars. Yeah, no, that's literally unironically true. You can thank Ford and GM for the state of America's sidewalks, for the state of America's buses, and for the lack of trams and um, streetcars. Most of America's rural areas used to be connected to the bigger cities by way of rail. It's just the way it used to be. It's a disgusting shithole that I mentioned totally on a note. Don't discuss urine feces all of like nothing you ever say. Oh, holy shit. Nicole Hahn's hitting hard against Seattle. I don't know anything about it, dog. I literally, all I know about Seattle is the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. I know that they tried to do communism for a while there. They tried to, like, do that, and that was cool. But Spokane and the Tri Cities are straight up ignored. Right on. 100% car companies bought into mail transportation in the 1930s, I believe. Well, it was through the 1930s to the 60s. So some of it they got started on in the 30s, yeah. But it fucking, like, the efforts continued all the way up through the 60s. And it's only in a few specific municipalities that they weren't completely successful. But that's why, by the way, That's why I talk about public transit so much, is because it's something that um, it's a war that's still actively being fought, and it's yet something that a lot of people don't even think about anymore. And it's honestly another reason I talk about it is because it's mostly a thing that city people talk about, and they talk about it for cities. But I'm in the unique position of being a rural Mississippi leftist. So I can talk about how public transportation would even solve problems for rural areas. And I can talk about how ideas like that might be implemented. Like, imagine this, okay? Imagine this. Imagine if, um, imagine if rural areas that were within like 15 miles of a reasonably large town, like 20,000 people or more, that had a bus service. Imagine if those rural areas were convinced, basically, like the churches in them were convinced to allow their parking lots to be used during the off days, basically, um, as like a bus stop. Like you've already got these big public places that a lot of the community are already going to be familiar with. It's rural people we're talking about here, so all the problems that people usually worry about happening with bus stops are not even a danger with the populations we're talking about. Even if someone was going to make that argument, um, but not only that, you've got these big public areas that everybody already knows about that are oftentimes lit at night, that are very easy to access by bus and large vehicle already by design. And a lot of them, like there's plenty of them in rural areas, a lot of them are pretty well maintained. It could honestly be a pretty interesting way for municipalities to work with the rural areas around them to provide better public services. That'd be a good idea. That'd be a good idea. You know, I've thought about it, and if I ever did run for public office, I pretty much know what direction I would go down. Ow. New Mexico, fuck red states. As he lights an American spirit, he asks how I can smoke such shit. I say there's nothing like chain smoking GPC cigarettes. 'Cause any smokes will kill ya, but these'll make you feel like it. Sit back down the parking lot curb. There's a fun catch-22 with public assistance and transportation. The places that need it tend to have a middle finger outlook to taxes. Yes, Joey, you are 100% right about that. Yes, yes, you are 100% right about that. But that's kind of one reason why I think, like, I don't know. How much credence do you give, Joey, to the argument that maybe we just haven't been, we meaning people who would be interested in seeing public transit expanded, how much leniency do you give us in our argumentation? Like, how much do you blame us versus, like, the state of things? Because I would make the argument that there are really good arguments to be made. That didn't make a lot of sense. But I would say that there are really good arguments to be made that a bus service, for example, that creating and expanding a bus service, or creating and then expanding a bus service, should be a pretty easy argument to make. It's like, okay, we're going to get a little bit of investment from the taxpayer. Okay, we're going to get a little bit of investment from the taxpayer, and then we're going to use that to build a service that will fund itself through um, ridership fees, basically, through, platform revenues. So like a lot of cities and municipalities and shit handle this by either charging per ride pricing, or you just have to buy like a Metro card, and then there's a bunch of different fucking ways you can handle it. There's a bunch of different ways you can fund it, but I feel like, honestly, it should be pretty easy to present people with the basic logic of, let's accept let's accept a I don't know, like an additional 2% sales tax for 4 years to fund the building and continued maintenance, and, if allowable, upgrades of a transportation system that will fund itself through revenues. I feel like that should be pretty easy to do. I don't know. Maybe I'm not the rhetorician to do it, but. Let's see here. North Adams, Mass. You ever make it to the Clark Art Museum, Williamsburg, next time over? I unfortunately never did make it to the Clark Art Museum. I wish I had been able. And I didn't even make it to Mass Mocha. Unfortunately, I saw pretty much everything free to do in North Adams and the surrounding area, but I didn't really get to do a lot of the paid shit, unfortunately. North Adams is kind of a tourist town, though, and if I ever have the money, which, if I keep making decent money on YouTube, maybe I will at some point in the next year or two. I want to go up there with like tourist money and be able to do some of this shit up there, but yeah. Anyway, so I wanted to respond to this. As long as towns have enough people to volunteer for commune, America has always had an independence in car culture, so it'll be hard for a lot of small towns. Taxes for all to help few is a no-go. Well, here's how I think about it. A lot of the smallest towns out there are not exactly the towns that I think should be even trying to look to do this. I don't even think that they should be trying to implement this idea just yet, or maybe even at all, because I don't think that it's maybe feasible for them. Let me respond to Super Chat real quick. Do you feel like playing a song? Appreciate you. You know what? For $5, yeah, I'll do it. Just let me respond to this chat real quick, because I do want to make sure that it's responded to. But yeah, here's how I project it working. There are lots of towns that still think of themselves as small towns, and that kind of are. I guess really they still are. I don't know what the definition of a small town is, and I don't know if anyone could provide me with a good one. But I wouldn't I wouldn't think that it would be incredibly wise to push for any town under, say, 20,000 people to push super hard for a big public transit push. But towns bigger than that, a lot of them are getting to the point where they are getting pretty hard to navigate if you don't have a car. And in today's economy, more and more people are getting to the age where they're becoming employable. They're getting to the age where they should be living on their own, where they should be um, becoming more independent and stuff like that, but are hindered in that because a lot of people can't afford a car these days when they're young. And increasingly, economic pressure is making it so that less and less families have access to, I guess you'd say, the vehicular resources to be able to like make up the difference. You know, like when I was, for example, I'm 27 now, but when I was 16, my mom, in a real stroke of luck for my family, I guess, was gifted a car by a relative who had bought herself a nicer car after getting a life insurance payout, and she gifted my mom her old car, and my mom just gave me her old car. Now, her old car had problems, and I knew when I was driving it that it was on borrowed time and that I'd have to be saving up for a new one, yada yada. Which I did, you know, and I did end up buying me a new car. But, oh yeah, so anyway, but back then, right, there was like something that managed to work out, and honestly, even if it hadn't, I probably could have figured out a job that would have worked within like some kind of schedule limitation that I could have done it eventually, right? Cars were cheaper back then. Used cars, especially, were way cheaper back then, and I probably could have done it. But nowadays, it's really, I mean, it's getting to the point where fewer and fewer and fewer people have a vehicle, and it's getting harder and harder for people to get one if they lose one. And so I think the time is really becoming ripe for a lot of these small towns to start developing bus lines and, where applicable and possible, or at all feasible, light rail. And the idea would be that you start in the small town that needs it, right? But that is big enough to need it. And at first, it's just providing transit options to make sure that people can get from the outer periphery of the town, the neighborhoods on the outer edge and inside of it, into the interior. And then you start making sure that people between those two zones can get to either direction, right? And at that point, you've got complete public transit within that town. And then at that point, once that's shown itself to be successful and the revenues are there for upgrades, or the taxpayer willingness is there for upgrades, if it's a hybrid system or whatever, then you start negotiating with churches out in the county, or gas stations or whatever it is out in the county, to start offering pickup and drop off services on a regular schedule to those areas, to offer to, or to open up access to even more people. I forget a lot of people don't have cars outside of cities. 33 and got my family two houses, three cars. Whoops. Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing is, like, some people are able to be really successful and other people are not. Now, we can argue till the cows come home about how much personal responsibility has to do with that, but I honestly I genuinely believe that there are some people that are, yes, harder workers, but also have way more access than other people. Like, I have known some really fucking hardworking people that, because they didn't have the right connections and didn't have like the right set of interests and shit, there's just like there wasn't much opportunity for them. And there's a lot of people that are stuck in positions like that. And I'm always happy to hear or see when somebody is able to come through and make things better for themselves and make things good. But I just have to keep in mind, because I've seen it play out so many times in my life, like how life circumstances might have played into that, how the availability of opportunities in a given area might play into that. Because, like, a real problem, and one of the problems that could be potentially solved by this public transportation thing, is that you might live in an area where opportunity is not necessarily gone completely, but you might live in a neighborhood of that area where, like, unless you have a car, you've got no access to that. And so people that have cars are able to be, somewhat prosperous and successful, but the individualistic attitude of America ensures that spirit of, that's the spirit of generosity that might otherwise uplift people that didn't have access to that same kind of thing is not going to play in. So, what are you left with? You eventually end up with whole apartment complexes full of people who are um, like unemployed or underemployed and um, living off of like very thin margins and not really able to improve themselves much because they're stuck in like a permanent loop of not like let's just take take a single mom, right, that is maybe like working from home but not making much and getting some child support payments. That person might like it might take them years upon years to crawl out of that, just because if she like just say she doesn't have a car, like it could take her years to fucking crawl out of that, because without a vehicle in most places in America, you're kind of fucked. I know I'm not explaining it the best. I'm fucking tired and it's like 1 in the morning. But for me, this is about like giving people access to a much better quality of life. This is about seeing the human spirit fulfilled. Think we avoid lots of single moms if we get rid of no fault divorce, keep families together and financially stable? Uh, wait, what? That just seems like a recipe for abuse to me. Like, the reason why no fault divorce is so important is because it allows two people that realize that they blundered into a marriage and kids before they were really ready to separate before they start beating the shit out of each other. Like, it's the whole reason why it was implemented in the first place. Abuse is a fault, it's grounds to split. Yeah, but the fucking whole reason why no fault divorce is a good thing is because it allows a couple to split before the abuse happens. It's not like perfectly loving, healthy couples go to abusing each other one day because a switch magically flips in their mind. No, usually people kind of know for a while that things are toxic, and if things are, if you're in a culture that allows no fault divorce, and doesn't place undue social burden on the two married people and all that, then those two people might realize their incompatibilities and decide to live separately and work through their problems as best they can. Um, and I feel like that's a way better outcome than like basically guaranteeing that any marriage that happens has to either work out perfectly or end up in abuse before it ends. Like basically that's the dichotomy that you're setting up in my mind. Either a marriage can end in the death of both spouses at the end of a long healthy life and they get along great and it's just perfect and great and they never separate, or the marriage ends because they separate after abuse or cheating, and that just doesn't seem right to me. It seems to me like people who realize that there's incompatibilities there should have an exit route before things get so toxic. Phoebe, what's your favorite TV series? Probably House MD if I had to take a stab at it. Hey, Mary. House MD, talk about abusive relationships. Well, where do you think I learned all my fucking secrets from? If a marriage is treated as a lot more serious and harder to get out of, you have less getting into it, can't remove consequences and commitment in the world, expect no issues to come. Well, the thing is, um, oh my god, I've got so many problems with this. Okay, so here's my first problem. Number one, even if you got rid of no fault divorce, and we accept your argument that less people would get into marriage if it was treated more seriously and all that, then at that point, we've got a number of issues, but chief among them seems to be, in my mind, let me see here. Wouldn't marriages go down like pretty precipitously? I feel like marriages would go down. Like even if we treat that as all true and we accept that as yes, and we just take it at face value, wouldn't that just inevitably lead to like less marriages and probably less kids too? Like, I don't know. Given that you're like a family guy and a conservative guy that's probably pretty pro people getting together and having families, surely you can recognize how um, like solidifying the idea could lead to less of that. Or are you making the argument that it would be better, like that either people should have less families, or I don't know, man. I think I might be too fucking tired to talk. Um, let me just cover another facet of this, and maybe I'll be able to approach it a little easier. So, um, marriage used to be treated as a super serious fucking thing, and uh, this was at a time where no fault divorce was not a thing either. Um, And at the time, marriage was kind of like an expectation, even though it was a massive, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Imposition, that's the word. Even though it was a massive imposition, marriage was looked at as kind of like a necessity for, like, especially for young women, because it was pretty much the only way that you could hope to get forward in life. And that didn't really start to change until the 70s. And if you ended no fault divorce today, you wouldn't instantly transport us back to that era where marriage is taken more seriously. It would get taken more seriously at that point because it would be seen as this like terrifying legal commitment that can only be broken if your husband beats you or if you beat him or if you cheat on him or something like that. And I feel like that would just scare a lot of people out of getting married, number one, but also um, I would never be able to get behind any kind of idea that would place marriage centrally as some kind of qualifying factor for getting forward in life. And this seems like a step towards that. Phoebe is cooked. Phoebe, I went and saw Project Hail Mary today. It was really good. Nice. Guess whose boyfriend was texting six other girls while I was laying in bed asleep next to him? Oh shit, Mary, that's no good. That's no good. That's terrible. I'm sorry, Mary. That's really lame. But yeah, ultimately, no matter what arguments we make, my main problem with ending no fault divorce is going to be the same fucking thing every time. No fault divorce gives couples who realize that they went into things too quickly and are not compatible an opportunity to get out before things get ugly. And if you end it, then what you're guaranteeing is that every marriage that doesn't end with the death of that couple after a long and healthy marriage ends in either cheating or abuse. In fact, you almost incentivize cheating at that point for a couple that's not happy in their marriage. It's just like at that point you realize like, well, we don't have no fault divorce in this state. The only way I can get divorced is if we cheat. So one of us cheats or something like that. It can happen, and then like I feel like it sets up like opportunities for underhandedness too. Like what if one half of the couple really wants a divorce and yet they realize that if they're found at fault for for the divorce, that they're not going to come out as good on the other end of the property split and everything, then they might actually like they might do some machination basically to get the other person to cheat and like instrumentalize this whole thing. instrumentized. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. Um, instructed. That's not a word. It's got something to do with the word instrument. I think. I don't know. Mutual splits are still okay with no fault. Is weed legal in Mississippi? I mean, it's medically legal. Mutual splits are still allowed in no fault. Well, then I apparently don't know what no fault is. I don't know. I'll have to read up on it. Anyway, someone did ask me to play a song, and I suppose it's only right to do so. Aw, thank you. Thank you for the $5. I appreciate that. Can always hit me up and I'll help and make case for it. Add to the discussion for call it. Yeah, I think no fault divorce is gonna have to be part of our call discussion now for sure. Anyway, I think you guys are gonna like this song. Okay, paradox. Um, Dan is actually kind of right. So, um, traditionally, the left has been like dominated by socialists and communists and have been pretty much united in their opposition to capitalism. More broadly, their opposition to unfair hierarchies and systems of oppression that are used to divide people and to keep people under various forms of tyranny. And like it is literally a phenomenon of American electoral politics that austerity policies like the Democrats so often support are considered even remotely left wing. It is only within an American political framework that is true. So yes, a president like Obama, for example, can be cited as a progressive president within the context of American politics because he was he made these changes to the healthcare system, and his rhetoric was so pro worker and so humanist and stuff. And that's fine until you start actually comparing the things that he was advocating for and the rhetoric that he had to the rhetoric of European politicians that were in a comparable place in their own country's Overton windows, which are not as far to the right as ours is. Dan thinks Obama was a right winger. Obama was center right. He was. I mean, um, like the reason why you think that that's absurd is because me and you think right winger and we think maggot, right? We think MAGA person, we think Trump, but that's an expression of how far right our country is. That's an expression of how conservative and illiberal our country's political tendencies really are. Here in America, Trump is right wing, and Obama or Kamala and people like their ilk are considered left wing. But in any other country, pretty much, except like Russia or something like that, Donald Trump would be considered far right, and Kamala Harris and the rest would be considered centrist at best. A right winger made gay marriage legal. I reject that. Obama didn't make gay marriage legal. That was decided in Obergefell v. Hodges, and has never been federally protected by the Democrats, by the way. Biden codified federal protection for gay marriage. Did he? The Respect for Marriage Act, I'll just have to take your word for it, I guess. Kind of way out of here, said the joker to the thief. Damn it. There must be some kind of way out of here, said the joker to the thief. There's too much confusion, I can't get no relief. There's this man named drink my wine, plow me, dig my earth, done will level on the line, nobody offers word. I wonder wonder if I would sound better if I did it in a lower key. No reason to get excited. The thief he kindly spoke. There are many here among us who feel that life is but a joke. You and I, we've been through that, and this is not our fate. So let us not talk falsely now. The hour's getting late. Get the view while the women came and went barefoot servants too. Outside in the cold distance, a wildcat did growl. Two riders were approaching, and the wind began to howl. I don't like my cover of that song, man. I really don't. I fucking... I want to work on it. I want to make it better. You should learn music theory. You already do some of it intuitively. Good to know. Good to know. Maybe I should. Maybe I should. There must be some kind of way out of here, said the drunkard to the thief. There's too much confusion, I can't get no relief. Businessman, they drink my wine, plowman dig my earth. Well, one level on the line, nobody offered his word. No reason to get excited. The thief kindly spoke. There are many here among us who think that life is but a joke. There's potential there. I almost feel like maybe I should slow it down or something. I can't get no relief. Businessman, they drink my wine, plowmen dig my earth. None will ever on the line, nobody offered his word. reason to get excited. The drunkard kindly spoke. There are many here among us who that life is but a joke. But you and I, we've been through that, and this is not our fate. So let us not talk falsely now. The hour's getting late. Hey. All along the watchtower, Princess kept the view, while all the women came and went. Barefoot servants too, outside in the cold distance, a wild cat did growl. Two riders were approaching, and the wind began to howl. Oh, 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 oh. All along the watchtower, all along the watchtower. Alright, I kind of feel like I made it my own there. PV, have you heard Circle Jerks yet? No. Unfortunately, I've been kind of like on a re-listen to the same dumbass music I've been listening to kick. But I promise I will get around to it. I fucking swear to God. There. I searched it so that I'll remember. Shit, I forgot to have this on the brick. Darkness at the break of noon, shadows, even the silver moon, the handmade blade, the child's balloon, eclipses both the sun and moon. To understand, you know too soon, there is no sense in trying. Pointed threats, they bluff with scorn. Suicide remarks are torn from the fool's gold mouthpiece. The hollow horn wasted words proves to warn that he not busy born is busy dying. Temptation's page flies out the door. You follow, find yourself at war. Watch waters fall of pity roar. You feel alone, but unlike before, you discover that you just be one more person crying. So don't fear if you're here. So don't fear if you hear a foreign sound to your ear. Hold on, I'm trying to remember how to play it. So don't fear if you hear a foreign sound to your ear. It's alright, Mom. I'm only sighing. So don't fear if you hear a foreign sound to your ear. Foreign sound to your ear. It's alright, Mom. I'm only sighing. As some won victory, some downfall. Private reasons, great or small, can be seen of eyes, and those are called to make although the holy shit. As some won victory, some downfall. Private reasons, great or small, can be seen in the eyes of those that call to make all that should be killed to crawl. While others say don't hate nothing at all except hatred. Disillusioned words like bullets spark as human gods aim for their mark. Make everything's from toy guns and spark to flesh-colored Christ that glow in the dark. It's easy to see without looking too far that not really much is sacred. Well, there's the train. Been wondering when they would finally decide to fucking cross. Oh. Better take this off for a second just in case I gotta run inside. Jesus Christ, why does that thing sound so bad? Fucking thing sounds like Mad Max technology, bro. Are you inside or outside right now? Inside, if you can fucking believe it. I got a window open, but goddamn. No, just if you're wondering, even freight trains are not usually that loud. Normally, the engine sound is quite a bit more muffled than that. That was fucking insane. Holy shit, guys, I can't hardly see anymore. I need new glasses so bad. I cannot wait until I get paid this month. Oh my god, y'all. I'm finally gonna be able to fix my whole life, basically. I'm gonna be able to get new glasses, new shoes. Neither of which are gonna be like tragically expensive, but it's just like you need to have the money to do it, and I haven't had the money to do it. But now I'm gonna have the money to do it. Not only that, but I'll be able to fix my fucking financial shit. How long you staying in Mississippi for? Bro, I live here. Bro, I live here. You don't want to leave? Part of me wants to leave, yeah. Part of me wants to stay and fight and improve things, see things be improved. I guess I kind of look at it like, for better or for worse, good, bad, right, or wrong. This is where I was brought up for a lot of my life, and it's one of the places to which I have a lot of kinship. Even if I disagree with a lot of the policies and want to change them, I I can't help the fact that there is a part of me that feels most at home in Missouri and Mississippi, in a weird way. So I don't know. Yeah, kind of. But on the other hand, like, like I said, those cultural ties, those familial ties, and also the fact that, you know, in the 1940s, my family bought a patch of land, and it's been getting passed through the generations ever since. I'm the next one in line, and if things continue on that bent, I've got a lot going here, and it's not much right now, but there's a lot of potential, and part of me wants to see how far I can make that go. I'm brain broken by watching American politics. I mean, it might be brain breaking you a little bit. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I disagree a lot with a lot of the policies. There's things I want to change. I want us to get recreational weed here. I want us to obviously have civil rights protections for queer people eventually. Are we back? We back? Okay, cool. Stream alive. Stream alive. Phoebe, did you get my cash out? Oh, what? Let me see here. Aww. Thank you. Get some cute frames, $50. That's so fucking sweet. Thank you. That makes all the difference. What a fucking sweet person. Thank you so much. Devil Doll sent 50 fucking bucks on Cash App and said, get some cute frames. I am thinking about it. And I've been thinking about going with like tortoiseshell frames or maybe leopard print or but like the alternating black and kind of yellowy thing. And I'm thinking about going with the more square kind of. I don't know. Taylor used to wear glasses like that, I think, and I always thought they looked really good on her. And I think they might look good on me too. By the way, some of your mods on this channel are actually my alt accounts. Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah. That would explain why there's like, no like random strings of bands that are completely unaccountable. If that's true, why don't you hop on one of them and start banning random people out of the chat, huh? Don't tell me. You gotta be kidding me. Okay. I thought they were gonna stop. Dude, I fucking thought they were gonna stop and then do a bunch of like the same type of shit they were doing this morning. Or not this morning, but this afternoon. But thank God they did not. Are the hillbillies moving in? No. No, it's just the fucking railroad. I fucking hate it here. Here I am, 10 minutes later after Paradox asking me about it. Now I'm like, I fucking hate it here. No, it's just like, I don't know, man. Honestly, one of the things I think about is if I ever get successful enough to be able to buy some more land, I am really gonna. I'm seriously thinking like either I will buy the land near our place that abuts our place, but that is farther away from the level crossing, and build a new house for myself and my family, fucking all the way back there at the fucking far ass end of it, so I can be as fucking far away from this horse shit as possible. Because I genuinely hate having to listen to I cannot tell you how much I hate having to listen to these noises all night. It's fucking absurd. Because it's like having to deal with the noises, at least occasionally, the noise and pollution of the city without any of the services. I think pink and black leopard print would look good on you. Maybe. Dude, I am fucking too curious at this point. I gotta know what's going on here. Well, I didn't elucidate a goddamn thing. Does any link post that would look rad on you? I will check it out. I will check it out. Can somebody ban Jacob King out of here already? Like, why are we allowing this obsessive fucking loser to take up time on this? Like, to what end? Ouch. Goodbye, Jacob. Yeah. Good riddance to bad rubbish, I say. Anyway, I gotta fucking figure out what is going on with this damn train. And I don't think I actually need the blanket. There is some kind of car parked out by the level crossing, and it looks, to my eyes, like a cop car, but it also could just be like a maintenance away SUV, I guess. Could be. I don't fucking know. Seems prudent to wonder. At the same time, I don't know how long they've been there. I don't know if I'm, like, gonna... Like, I don't know. Is it dangerous to smoke weed right now? Am I in trouble? PB Zenny is awesome for frames. Definitely recommend. My prescription sunglasses are amazing. Oh, hell yeah. Okay, cool. I'll keep them in mind then. Where is everyone? Is it just me? I don't know, dude. I don't know. Checking for stowaways? Maybe. I don't know what the fuck they're doing. I know whatever engine they got set up right here is just. I mean, it sounds like it's on its last fucking legs. It is insane how bad that thing sounds. Jesus Christ. I'm telling you guys, a freight train ain't supposed to sound like that. Fucking thing sounds like it's farting. Dude, I have a theory, and I'm just gonna share it with you guys since we're not really talking about anything right this second. I think I think America's railroads are falling apart. Like, I think America's freight railroads, like everything else in this country, have become privatized and financialized to the point where they are no longer effective stewards of the infrastructure by which they make their money and by which the world gets their goods. Yes, I do mean the world. Our freight rail system is how we transport our goods, for the most part, from the heartland to the processing centers, from the processing centers to the ports, from the ports out to all of you. You think? And here I thought it was just our other infrastructure. Well, that's why I kind of like laughed and giggled at the proposition, because it's kind of sarcastic. Like, I know that's kind of like true, like objectively, and that it's not just my perception, but it's something that is not actually that believed. Like, a lot of people think our rail system's doing just fine. Because here's what they see these giant, long, massive freight trains. They see them pretty constantly if they live in the country and live near somewhere with an active rail line. And, like, they know that other countries don't have that. And I think in a lot of people's minds, that generates this kind of like false conclusion. Like, oh, well, that must be functioning perfectly fine. People see I literally think it's just exposure. The fact, like, I think it's the fact that people see that infrastructure, whereas like a lot of stuff is not, it's a little more taken for granted. But because that is just common enough. Yeah, I don't know why the stream keeps dying. You won't be able to go anywhere with that AI tracking you. We're too busy installing flock cameras. Yeah, no doubt. We're too busy installing flock cameras and worrying about the fucking police budget to ever worry about. Plug that phone in. It is plugged in. It's all plugged in. I don't get it. I don't know why I'm having connection issues. I legit don't know what's going on, guys. Hello? Can anyone hear me? I don't know what's going on. Ugh. I hate it when this happens for no fucking reason at all. Literally, for what reason? For why? Okay. Okay, so I guess the only thing I can do is just monitor the stream with my other phone, which is going to take up so much bandwidth. Ugh, can't do that. Erg. Okay, you're just going to have to deal with it. Just deal with it. That's my advice. You know, if like the stream is buffering a little bit, how about we just deal with it? We pretend it's not happening, okay? Have a conversation with the me you imagine to be there. Sound good? He lives. I guess. A Buddhist monk orders a donut. He receives his donut and gives the cashier $20 and waits a long time for his change. After waiting an extraordinarily long time for the change, he asks and the cashier responds, "Change must come from within." Yeah, it is buffering. It's buffering again? Are you kidding me? Are you sure? I don't think it's buffering. I'm gonna go ahead and take the vest off. And I will be right back. Well, at least you 5 wretched few are here for the last minute or two. Oh, shit. Oh, my God. Oh, my God, dude. Oh, shit. No, no, no. Okay, anyway. I'm leaving. Goodbye.